Hello, everybody. This is Grant again with Grant Draws. Today we have Dan Barlow. I met Dan in what was it, Toledo or Dayton,
Dayton.
right?
Yep.
Yeah, so Dayton's. So we were at Gem City in Dayton, right?
Yes. Last July.
Cool. So Dan is a cool little artist. He does a cool little comic book called Devil's Contract. We will talk about that. Uh, but first, I wanted to discuss a little bit of the stuff that's going on in my life right now. I just got back. We did Three Rivers Con all weekend. It was me and Angie. We had some of the other Comicsburg guys. Uh, Manny and Marvin sometimes show up for this show. Uh, Manny goes under the name Herwenberg on here, and Marvin does a comic book called The Edge. We also had another guy with us called DP. He's a good guy too, and we saw some friends of Dan's this weekend. Um, we saw Mark Fisher, who's from West Virginia. Is he from Morgantown?
I think so. I think it is Morgantown.
Yeah. So backstage, we were talking a little bit about Three Rivers Con. And you said you haven't heard from Mark yet, right?
No, we plan on doing a call next week to discuss some things. But yeah, I haven't heard nothing back. I saw a bunch of pictures on Facebook from Three Rivers Con. Looked like everybody
Yeah.
had a good time.
Yeah, I actually had a really good time. It did seem as if it was a little bit slower than past years.
Mm.
So so um so Three Rivers, it goes on the same time. Oh, there's Marvin. Yeah, Marvin was at Three Rivers as well. Um yeah, you met Marvin, right, Dan?
Yeah, what's up, Marvin? Yeah, I got a chance to hang out with Marvin last year at the Gym City show too. He's a pretty cool book. The Edge, man. That was I got the first issue. I need to get more now.
Yeah, and we went to a really nice bar there in Dayton.
Yeah.
What was the name of that bar? It had the like the
Yeah.
gnomes outside, or was it
It was
ogres?
a pub
Yeah,
with the giant
that's
trolls out the building. Yeah, that's a good time. Good time. So get a chance to hang out with the Comicsburg crew and talk and shop, and it was a great night.
so. I wanted to say hi to Carl and Donna. They seem to
I,
be our biggest fans. Which, thank you guys again for watching tonight. Um, we're talking a little bit about Three Rivers Con, which uh, yeah, I don't know. I think both Marvin and I agreed it was a pretty good convention. It was a little bit slower than usual. Um, we were talking, we were networking a little bit with like a smaller comic book publisher
hmm,
there, and I wanted to kind of get your opinion on this, Dan. So, I mean, we were talking to a comic book publisher who publishes a lot of comic books with writers and artists who have about the same, level of popularity as like Marvin or I,
okay.
or probably in the same ballpark as you. Um, and I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence. I mean, it doesn't do any harm to network,
No.
but um, I'm kind of still on the fence about whether or not I want to get hooked up with a smaller publisher, just because quite frankly they've been going bankrupt left and right.
Yeah, wasn't it? Who was it? IDW that had recent troubles. and later.
IDW had troubles. Aftershock went bankrupt. I can't remember his name, but the guy who does the art for Jimmy's Bastards, I can't remember his name, but he was there at, which is an Aftershock comic book, and I listened to a panel that he did, and he said that Aftershock plans on going back to publishing books, which I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know that they left a lot of artists and writers without getting paid.
Yeah,
So I don't know how they're going to go about. I don't know how enthusiastic people are going to be to work with them again.
yeah, they're gonna
Um,
have. They got a long road to repair their reputation now because one, they're gonna have to go ahead if they want to get back into doing books. They're gonna have to make amends with the writers and artists that they burned recently,
yeah,
and then two, it's almost like, hey, uh, I'm sorry. You know what? We just had a hiccup, and get back on track. And any writer and artist that wants to deal with them is going to have to look at different terms moving forward. If you want to deal with a company like that, I mean, what kind of contract you going to have where you maybe at least 50% up front? I,
yeah.
I, I don't know.
So that's why I'm kind of on the fence. I mean, like I said, it doesn't do any harm to talk to these guys.
Yeah.
And the guy who runs this company, and I mean, I'm purposely leaving out the name just because I don't know if they want us broadcasting this stuff. But
Yeah.
um, he seems like he has a good head on his shoulders. He seems like he really knows what he's doing. But I'm sure a lot of these guys seem like that when you first start talking to them. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
But I mean, your campaigns for Beowulf has been pretty solid, right? I mean, your Kickstarter
Yeah,
campaigns are getting funded. Uh, Comicsburg as a whole, it seems like everyone's books are doing pretty well. You're in Diamond, right?
right. So
Catalog.
I mean, that's why I'm saying, like, I don't know if I would want to mess around with a publisher or not. But
Yeah, it's like what the table that you're not doing for yourself already.
right.
So uh, last year, before the show at Gym City last year, um, like a month before I was going to print and start my campaign, I was I found a publisher in Florida on Facebook. Um, the guy reached out to me, really liked my stuff. Uh, he did like a line of horror comics, and he talked to me for about an hour and a half on the phone about joining their group, and they would print my book and stuff. But the thing that held me up was I wanted to have something in hand, something printed for myself to take to my local show here in my hometown, and they was telling me that they didn't want that because it wouldn't have their name on my book, and then
Mm,
they wasn't going to go ahead. I wouldn't be in Diamond until like mid 2023, and I just didn't want to wait another year because I needed a printed copy in hand to help
yeah.
motivate to do the next book, and
Right.
because there's so much labor involved when you're doing everything yourself, and I
Hmm.
didn't really know what they was going to do. I mean, granted, they'd get me a Diamond, but then I'd have that schedule of making sure that I have at least a book every 2 months. And when you're doing the artwork and the writing and everything except for the letters right now, um, it's just
Yeah.
it was more than
Impressive.
but yeah, and I just didn't know what they was going to bring to the table. I mean, so
Yeah. I mean,
but yeah,
again, I mean, I'm still on the fence about it. Carl kind of had kind of some similar issues. He said he's not sure what that he wants a publisher yet. Um, yeah, I don't know either. I
I
guess I mean it's one of those things like get everything in writing.
yeah, definitely.
Um, have a lawyer take a look at it. Uh, yeah, I don't know, but we're getting ahead of ourselves here. I do want to show some of the art that we have here. We'll start
Okay.
off with some of the pages that I've done, and then we can take a look at some of the pages that you've done.
Yeah, definitely.
So I finally finished this page. I feel like I've been working on this on the stream for like weeks now. But so this is going to be in the next Memoirs of the Morbid, which is going to be on Kickstarter later this month. This is the story that I did. Um, it's about a group of kids walking through a haunted pumpkin patch, and we kind of get into, it's kind of ambiguous whether or not the pumpkin patch is haunted or not. And here at the bottom of the page, we have the Ghoul Master, who is kind of like my version of like the Crypt Keeper, or the old narrators from
East.
those 40s, yeah, the EC comic books, yeah,
Yep.
exactly. So yeah, so this is going to be a fun little comic book. And then I usually don't get time to do much drawing on these streams because I'm usually too busy talking and keeping up with the comments. But if we do start talking, or if I do get some time to draw, I'll probably work on this page. So one of the reasons I like Photoshop, so this scene is going to take place in like a dungeon. One of the reasons I like Photoshop is because you can put stuff on different layers. I usually leave my photo reference on other layers. I mean, this isn't so much photo reference. I guess it's more art reference, but um, yeah. So that's a little look into my process right there. So if I get time to draw, I'll work on this page. Um,
Nice. Now, how many pages is it? It's a short story in an anthology, right?
yeah. So the entire anthology is going to be about a little over 40 pages, and it's going to be 5 stories. Each story is, I think, between like 7 to 9 pages, in that kind of range. Um, and I don't know if I told you this. My wife has a story in the comic book this time,
Oh, nice.
which which is cool. Which, speaking of which, so I've been alluding to this for weeks too. So each story is going to have its own cover, and this is the story for Angie's cover. So this is supposed to be an homage cover. I hope what we're homaging is famous enough that people know what we're homaging. So this is one of the movie posters for Clerks, and this was Angie's idea for the cover too. We actually ended up using an artist that we talked to at AkronCon. Let me make sure I get his name correct. I'm going to look up his name real quick, or maybe not as quick as I thought because my computer's gone slow. Uh, Chris Kazmar. Um, and we met this guy in Akron convention, and we showed him this picture. We showed him what the characters look like. Um, and this is for my wife Angie's story, which is about a grocery store that kind of caters to, we'll say, an unconventional uh, group of customers. As you can kind of see, like it's kind of more of like a grocery store for monsters.
Nice. So
Yeah,
is
we were. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, is this Angie's first published work coming out?
So
Or-
Angie has been writing stories for years and years. and she writes short stories. And um, and I said to her one day, well, why don't you adapt one of these for a comic book? And she said, because I mean, I know a little bit about getting comic books out there. I could probably help you with that. And she was kind of like, well, I'm not sure if I know how to do that. So what I did was she had it written out like as prose, and I sat down and I said, okay, this could be the first page, this could be the first panel. You know, you should turn this paragraph into the second panel. And then we hired an artist to draw it, and this is the cover for that story. And I'm really happy with how this turned out, because if you look, there's a lot of neat little details, like the price is 666.
Yeah.
In the take a penny, leave a penny, there's a severed eye, which so yeah, so we're really happy with how this turned out.
That's great. Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's
thanks.
good to do a different cover for each story because you know uh, it just gives everyone a chance to be in the spotlight. You
Yeah.
know,
Well, it's fun, and I mean, it probably ends up costing more than if we just did one cover. I mean, I don't know. I think you did one variant cover for Devil's Contract, right?
yeah, I did one for the first one and a variant cover for the second one. Um, but for me, since my audience was still pretty small right now, the variant covers didn't really, push the needle. I just did like 30 variant covers signed and um, for both times around, and um, it just seemed like I paid the colors to do the front cover, the the main cover,
Oh,
uh,
right.
and so it just made sense to really maybe just kind of stick with that, even though um, I'm thinking for the final issue of the miniseries about doing several variant covers, but we'll see. It all depends.
How many issues is yours going to be?
Uh, it started out, it was going to be four, and then as the story started to grow and had more ideas coming in, I'm thinking like six.
Okay,
So
I mean, six is almost perfect for like a trade paperback.
yeah, and
But you don't
that's
want to
the
talk
end.
about the trade paperback too much, because then people start thinking like, oh, why am I buying the individual issues? I'll just wait till the trade paperback comes out.
Yeah, I don't know if I can get to that point, but um, yeah, I would love to something like that to happen. But if I can finish the six issues and then see kind of gauge what the readers think. I have some other stories and some solo stories, like single solo issues I wanted to do as well. So we'll see, what characters people like because a couple of the characters I was going to do a solo book, like just one issue, kind of tells
Oh,
their back at. But
like spin-offs. Yeah, that's cool.
yeah, um, yeah, like a couple of the main characters. Because all the bounty hunters are named after the holidays. So the Mr. Halloween character and Mr. Christmas, I
Right.
have a couple solo books planned, and so we'll see. We'll see. I have some artwork already. I've been kicking around. I've been doing so.
It almost sounds like you have the same problem that I do, where it's like I I have a million times more ideas than I do time to work on these projects.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because
It
I was sitting down and figuring out, okay, by the time, like, if I can keep at this schedule, I should have like written and drawn all the comic books for all the ideas I have by like 2030. And I'm like, let's hope that I don't get more ideas between now and then. You know what I mean?
yeah, oh yeah, definitely. Uh, yeah, since I've and that's hitting it full steam. I mean, I don't know if you're like me. I try to do even if it's just a panel or something related to the book, the project, every night. And I feel like if I go to bed and not do that, like the day's wasted. I do all my regular stuff, go to work my 8 hours, or come home, help out around the house, mow the grass, whatever. But if I don't get at least a half hour in on my comic work, then
Right.
it's frustrating. It's just like, I got to get this stuff done. And
So
yeah.
yeah, I do that as well. The other thing that that I do to keep my sanity is like no matter how much like no matter how much work I have to do, I always do like something creative at least once every 2 or 3 days. Because it's like sometimes when you're like fulfilling like your Kickstarter, it
Oh,
can get tempting to just work on the Kickstarter, but w- that's when I start to get like really depressed and start thinking like, God, why am I even doing this? Because it's like I got into this to do fun stuff, not to put
yeah.
together packages and stuff. So
Now, see, you're part of a collective. Is there anyone there that can be recruited, like a project manager, to help?
no,
Uh,
unfortunately, no, we're not quite at that point yet. But yeah,
yeah, I figured like someone that's not a writer or not a comic book artist, but an enthusiast would jump at that chance if given. So
so maybe that's what we need. We do have one Comicsburg groupie who is named Angie, and she just gave me a dirty look for saying that. But you can maybe hear her laughing in the background. But
it's funny though. My wife's name is also Angie. So, but
oh really?
she's upstairs. She's asleep because she runs a summer camp for little kids, and she gets up
Oh,
early.
that's
But
now is she interested in comic books or not?
no, you know what? I took her to a convention once. It happened to be in Pittsburgh. Golly, 2000. No, wait. It might have been 98, 99. We started dating. We might have been engaged. Took her to Pittsburgh, and she's just like, this place is crazy. What's going on? And I was just like, yeah, this is kind of what it is. You see
Yeah.
some
So
characters and stuff, but she
yeah,
doesn't or
oh, I'm
anything.
sorry. Go ahead.
So,
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
oh no, I'm sorry. I say my wife's not really into comics or anything like that. Be cool if she was, but you know, she just does her thing, and I'm like, hey, I'm printing a book. She's like, oh, okay, that's cool.
Well, yeah.
You
So
know,
we took my brother. We took. Oh, there's Angie. So we took my brother to when we went to Baltimore Con because my brother lives near Baltimore, and yeah, he was. I mean, I think his favorite part of the convention were like some of the outfits that the female
uh,
uh, con, conference goers were wearing. But yeah, he was like after that, he was like, "Oh my god, I need to go home and just lay down. This day was like too much for me."
yeah,
But
it's a trip. Uh, did a
yeah,
sh- Me and my friends went to a show in 2001, I think it was, up in Chicago. And at the time, it was the second largest show in the country. And there was this whole section like adult comics, and
oh
they had like adult film stars and all kinds of crazy outfits was being worn. And you're just like, oh my. And I'm thinking, there's families walking around. People got their kids at this place, and here you got like this bad girl book with actual ladies walk around and hardly anything on. And it's just like, wow, this is an interesting mix of people. So
yeah. Some of the conventions have rules about that now, just because they don't want what you're describing, like
yeah,
like parents like going around and saying like, oh, there's a half naked lady, or interspersed among these child friendly comics is penthouse comics, or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
Sorry.
great stuff. Uh, it. back in the 90s, some of the first stuff I was offered, first gigs I was offered was borderline pornographic. Uh, it was some crazy stories from one of the publishers that was putting out some bad girl books, and they were selling a lot of books at the time.
Yeah.
Uh, and but it was just something I and if that's what you do, that's your thing, then that's good. I mean, if it pays your bills, that's fine. But it just wasn't something I wanted my name attached to, because I have two
Yeah.
daughters now, and I just didn't want them to come back and be like, "Hey, Dad, we saw your old book that you drew of like all this crazy stuff." And so, how do you explain that sometimes? I mean, not that they read my books now, but
Right.
I'm sure they probably think it's crazy just because of, but the cover, who knows? But I don't do anything too extreme. Try not to.
Well, I can tell you, when I'm scrolling through Kickstarter, I see some of the adult comic books and I start like looking at like the amount of money they've raised.
Oh,
And I'm not gonna lie to you, sometimes it is
it's
kind of tempting. Like you think, oh wow, like this. I'll
yeah,
call it an adult comic book because instead of a porno comic, just to be more polite. But yeah, you see like, oh man, this adult comic has raised $50,000. You start thinking like,
yeah.
hmm,
Like
you know,
what? Yeah,
do I want my friends and family to see that on one hand, but the $50,000 would go a good way to making me feel better about that. You know what I mean?
yeah. If because let's say you do a couple of two or three of those a year, and you wouldn't have to. You could quit your day job, right, and just
Well,
draw. Day. I mean that
yeah, or you could do one of those a year and then spend the rest of the time doing comic books that you want to do.
that's true too. And you know what? Some of those I've seen. Some of them, the interior art is good, but some of them has really nice covers, and you open the up, and the interior pages are garbage. Some of those are god awful. I'm like, this book raised that much money, and that's the product they're putting out. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes it's more than just pinups. I mean, there has to be a happy medium somewhere, but I don't know. I've been tempted. I've had a couple people read like the first issue of my book, and they're like, where's the chicks at? Where's the big breasted women at? I'm like, they're not in there, but you know,
Right.
sorry, I don't have the nude covers or anything like that. Man, would I love to have the numbers that some of those campaigns do? Yeah, I mean, but it's a struggle. It's a huge temptation to want to
Yeah,
put something out.
I have a couple friends on Facebook from Italy, and it seems like that's really big in Italy. And yeah, the adult comic books. And um, and the cool thing about those, I would call those more like erotic comic books because
Yeah.
they have a legitimate story. It it's not just TNA. They're putting stuff in there that I don't know. It feels less exploitative than the
Mm,
ones you see where it's just like
probably the story.
women with giant breasts.
Yeah, probably some of those stories it has a little bit more to it than uh, what we're doing around here.
Yeah,
Then again, it's hard to judge those books because I don't buy them.
yeah.
Who knows? They could be great. I could read the story like, man, this is fantastic. But some of the
So
bad came across.
oh, I'm sorry.
I'm saying some of the bad girl books of the '90s. The stories were terrible. Not all of them, but some of the ones that I saw, I'm like, oh man, this. Yeah, I wouldn't spend $5-6 on this book or more.
Well,
So
I never read Lady Death because I always thought it looked like just a TNA comic book. But
yeah,
some people have actually told me that Lady Death isn't that bad. It's a fairly good book. I don't know if you've ever read it or not.
I tell you what though, Brian Paluto has, I think I said his name right, but uh, and he has a system down pat, and he's one where whose campaigns are like, you know, anywhere from 50 to 100,000 for a book. And
He's got to be a millionaire by now.
yeah, yeah, it's crazy. So, but hey, good for him. He made it work. He found his audience, and he has enough backers, and they're eating it up. Meanwhile,
Yeah.
if I $100 campaign, I'm just like, oh, phew, all right.
Yeah, I think we're all there right now.
Yeah, yeah, baby.
So yeah, I'm sorry. What were you saying?
I'm just saying, baby steps.
Yeah. So before we get too far along, I do want to mention the sponsors we have on this show. Just Records. That's a recording studio that's owned by my friend Dan here in Pittsburgh. They don't just record music. If any of you guys in the chat who are authors, if you are looking to do like an audiobook of yours, he does that. For those of you who are wondering what his recordings sound like, he does the voice for my Beowulf, the trailer for my comic book Beowulf. So also, if you guys need, voiceover for a trailer, he can do that as well. And I have the website address there up on the screen. And then our friend Joe Bachman. You know what? I think I screwed this up. I think I have a typo in here. Yeah, the Independent Creators Directory, which Dan, you might want to talk to him about that. It's a good way to what you do. He sends you an email. It has like a bunch of like general questions. What's going on in your career. What the name of your comic book is and stuff like that. And then people can look you up via the Independent Creators Directory.
Yeah, I'll
And
check
that's a
that.
neat little thing as well. Yeah, Joe usually listens. I don't know if he's here yet, but he might show up later. I know he's been really busy lately. Um, so we'll see what's going on in the chat. Angie is saying make sure that everyone that you share the stream and the channel. And Carl says, I would think that it's like writing books. You want to find your audience and satisfy what they want.
Yeah,
I
that's
think he's referencing like when we were talking about the adult comic books, which yeah, I think you're right there.
yeah.
So okay, I'm gonna let you. Whoops. I'm just gonna remove this. I'll give you center stage.
Yeah. Okay. Let me know, and I can show you what I'm working on, some of the beginnings, just a little bit about myself, a little history going back.
Yeah. So like I said, I met you in Dayton. Yeah, I guess I didn't know as much about your history. Like, I guess you've been in the industry for what, like, since the '90s, right?
Yeah, off and on.
Right.
My first published work, I moved up to Wooster, Ohio, and had an apartment with another independent comic creator, Mike Everett, and we found a publisher at a show out of Florida at the time. I think it was '93, and he liked our work, and he was putting together a line of books, and he was doing a kind of like a preview book, and it had a cover by Bill Tucci, who created She.
Yeah.
They printed like 50,000 copies, but this thing sold. It was in diamond and
Wow.
catalog. 50,000 copies.
Yeah, you don't
Uh,
see numbers like that anymore,
no,
at least not for
market,
independent ones.
that's with all the gold foil covers, and Image was hot right at the time, and just people was buying books left and right. He even had us at a show in Chicago as guest. Um, and then so we're thinking everything was going to be good. I did like a vampire book, and it was pretty wild stuff. It was like I think 4-page preview pages in color from my book, And same thing with my friend, like 4 pages of his stuff. Um, and so we're thinking this is great. This is our careers is going to take off, and then nothing. Like he went radio silent. He didn't put nothing else out, and I think you can still find the book. It was Samson Comics
Okay.
present or one half. I need to buy a copy for myself. I don't even have my copy anymore, so I think I've seen it on eBay. But anyways, so that deal fell through. There's a couple times where I tried to get with some groups for some other anthologies. They didn't really pan out, but um, I just kind of
I know
worked on
that story.
stuff for a while. And then right around 2000, 2001, I found digital webbing comics online. Met up with a writer who happened to be out of Columbus, Ohio. And
Okay.
so my next published work was with Digital Webbing Presents. Um, it was a cool issue. It actually shared some of that book, Ryan Otley of Invincible fame.
Yeah.
Yeah, before he did Invincible, I don't know if that was his first work, but it was his some early work of his before Invincible. That
So
was in
you've
the
rubbed
same.
shoulders with some pretty cool guys, right?
Yeah, and I think Daryl Banks did the cover.
Daryl Banks was at Three Rivers.
Yeah, yeah, and I think at the time he was still doing like Green Lantern or something like that.
Do you
Uh,
know? Do you know if Daryl? I mean, I guess I could have asked him since I saw him. Do you know if he still is working in the field? Because I see him at a lot of conventions, but I don't see a lot of comics with
yeah,
his
you know,
name.
I talked to him at Gym City last year. He was working on a World War II comic. I think it was supposed to hit Kickstarter like early 2023, but I haven't seen it. I have to next time I see him, I have to ask him. Nice guy, real friendly guy. So
He's a
and
really nice guy, and that that run on Green Lantern was very formative for me. That's one of my favorite early comic books.
okay, wow, yeah. I so for you, that's some of your some of the books that really got you into reading comics.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh,
I mean, it was just cool because I mean that was the first time like I ever saw like a superhero go crazy. You know what I mean? And that kind of blew my brain as a kid.
yeah,
If that makes sense.
yeah. Oh no. I think what got me some of the books that got me involved was like Daredevil, Frank Miller. Uh,
Oh, okay.
I started reading The Punisher when it became a series. I picked up some Batman here and there, and but the Justice League with Kevin McGuire's art is
Yeah.
I picked that up from day one, and the GI Joe comic I picked up from day one because I loved the GI Joe action figures and the cartoon, and so I started drawing comics back in the 80s. I had a comic I used to draw in my sketchbook and pass around in high school for people to read called the Cat Berets, and it's about these cat-like human soldiers, and but it was all a play on GI Joe.
Yeah.
uh, I had a classmate. He's like, well, "You ever heard of the Ninja Turtles?" I'm like, "Never heard of the Ninja Turtles." And he showed me some of the stuff, and I was just like, "Oh man!" I kind of felt like, you know, I didn't want my stuff to be made it feel like uh, I was trying to copy what Eastman and Laird was doing. I
Isn't
was
that the
actually
worst?
what GI Joe was putting out. So
So you were mad that people thought you were copying the Ninja Turtles when in actuality you were copying GI Joe, right?
yeah, yeah, but uh, but Eastman and Laird is the most successful independent comic of all time, really, and huge. But uh, so yeah, and I still have those sketchbooks. But yeah, and that's what got me into drawing comics. Um, was a lot of that, and then
Yeah.
yeah, so Digital Webbing Presents. I did some work with a group of independent creators from Columbus in the early 2000s called Panel. They did some anthologies, some really cool ideas. And then I did some Christian comic work. Uh,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, back in 2008, 2009.
Okay.
And their main thing, and that was a kind of like digital webbing. There was an online group. They was pulling creators from everywhere, and there's a lot of good creators that was wanting to do Christian comics. Their thing was they wanted to do it, have a message, but not come across as being cheesy. Um,
Makes
so
sense.
yeah, and so I did some artwork for several publishers. I think I've been published 10 or 11 times at that point. And then 2011, I did one issue of pencils for a Christian comic that never got printed. And then I did pen and ink on a book for a company I was working for my day job. And
Oh,
because they wanted to do a comic and pass them out. But the company went under before that happened. So I have a whole issue completed, lettered, and everything in my possession. So, so one of the
that's
things,
gotta be frustrating.
yeah, it was real frustrating. That was, I kind of took a break after that because I had all this work and nothing was getting printed. And this was before really print on demand was a thing, like Kablam and all that. I didn't really, and then the cost was still expensive to print your stuff.
What
So
year are we talking about?
uh, this was, I want to say 2011, 2012.
Okay.
Uh, until recently, and so I started looking back at. I have a lot of work that never seen light of day, and so this book was one of them. So I did a new cover, and
Oh wow. So let me see if I can make you bigger so that people
oh,
can.
sorry,
Let me see. I can make myself bigger. I can't make you bigger for some reason.
make me bigger.
Uh, well, okay. I mean, that's.
Yeah,
I mean that's. I mean, I can at least see the detail, and it looks really good.
no, thanks. Yeah, this is like a superhero book, and the main character, his name is Instant, and he's kind of like the Flash,
Okay.
except his powers are all based on the suit that he's wearing.
Now, was
So
this your concept, or was this somebody else's?
this was kind of my concept. There's a lady I worked with at the company at the time. She was published. She had several novels published, like sci-fi novels.
Okay.
It she didn't really know about writing comics, but it's kind of like, hey, you know what? It'd just be a little fun side project if you want to put some words down. And so she did. Um, and like I said, we have a 26-page book done, and I also have half the artwork completed for issue 2. So I figured down the road, within the year, I'll put it out and see if these are characters that readers can get into. It's kind of all ages. There won't be some of the stuff that I do in the Devil's Contract. You won't see in this. Not the extreme violence or uh, any foul language and stuff. That way, I can hand it to my nieces and nephews if they want to read a comic. Um, so we'll see. Like I said, if people start picking it up and they really want to see more, then it's something to continue on the side. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it sounds like you're fairly busy.
yeah, I like to probably because I have ADD, and I like to
Yeah.
stay. But I mean, I had been really laser focused on the Devil's Contract on the third issue,
Yeah.
um, and I can show you that stuff. But yeah, I took a hiatus for about 9 years or so, um, and it wasn't until 2019 I was diagnosed with stage 4 lymphoma. Um,
Right. I remember you mentioning that.
yeah, so when I was sitting in chemotherapy, it was kind of like it was on my bucket list because I'm like I don't know what my future was, and so I wanted to make sure that uh, and I'm sure you can attest to this. As a creator, you want to leave something behind, um,
Exactly.
and for people to know, because a lot of times you can get your voice heard in this media. So through comics, and so that's just one way of getting my voice heard. Um, so yeah, I had a couple friends that really egged me on about doing comic work again, and then when I started looking at Kickstarter, weighing my options, and I found Comics Wellsprings,
Yeah.
printing portable, and I was just why not get back into it. And so for the past year and a half, it's just been um, a lot of work, a lot of labor, and a lot of love. I love coming home doing artwork at the end of the day, and is normally that's my time frame. I normally have 2 to 3 hours a night to try to put put something down on paper. Um,
Yeah.
so, and I love it. It for me. It's very therapeutic. Um, I just need that fix to unwind and not stress out over the day, um, and sit down and just go into my own world and these stories that keep bouncing around my head that I'm trying to get out. And
Yeah, it feels good, doesn't it?
uh, it feels great. I tell you what, when I held it up to this point, I did work for everyone else, and then when I finally held the printed copy in my hand of my own creation and my own story, it just felt so like liberating. It just felt great, um, and it's addicting. Like you want more. Um,
Exactly. Yeah,
so
yeah, I remember like when I was showing Angie like the finished comic book because I mean like she wrote the story and then we hired an artist and and I did the lettering and I kind of like laid out the pages and stuff and I was showing it to Angie and I'll never forget what she said. She said, "It's so crazy for me to think that this was in my head and now it exists like in the real world." And I was like, "Okay, now do you get why I'm like addicted to this whole
yeah,
thing?" It's hard for me to put into words, but it really is the greatest feeling in the world when you're looking at this comic book and you think like, "Oh my god, just a few months ago this was nothing but
and
like a fantasy that was running through my head.
yeah,
Now it exists out there in the world." And then like I mean, if I start thinking about little kids reading this stuff. I mean, I know little kids don't read comic books as much as they used to, but there have been a couple times where kids came up to my booth and bought the comic book, and that's really the greatest feeling in the world because I
yeah,
think back to when I was like 13 or 14 and like just how excited I would get when I had a new comic book.
yeah,
And to think that there are little kids out there maybe now who might be picking up one of my comic books, yeah, that's the
yeah.
greatest feeling in the world.
And who knows, that might be a future creator, you know, a future
Yeah.
writer, great artist, and in the comics industry, 10 years from now. Um, yeah, and that would be awesome to have them look back and say, you know what, I've read Beowulf. That was a cool series from some guy I met at a show, and um, yeah, so that's one of those things too. I do have I did a lot of cartooning um, when I was younger, so I had
Mhm.
cartoon characters. I did the coloring book actually um, about 12 years ago. Uh, but it was some cartoon characters I had, and I printed up maybe like 100 copies. It was pretty cool. Uh, but that's also something I was like, Free Comic Day rolled around, and I don't know about Pittsburgh, but I went to the local shop here. There was a line
Yeah.
of people around the building, families, parents with their kids, and they're just buying up all kinds of cool stuff. I did a store signing at that same shop earlier for my book, and the guy came
Yeah.
up looking for I'm looking for books for my son who's like 9 years old. What do you recommend? I'm like, well, one, I don't recommend my book, but I said, let's take a look, man. I'll walk with you. We'll look up and down the racks, and I can try to, find something cool for you. And we found a couple of cool books for him. But then that got me thinking, like, next Free Comic Book Day 2024, it'd be kind of cool to have like a 16, 20-page free comic, have a couple of stores put some ads in to pay for printing, and do a couple hundred copies and hand them out and hand them to nieces and nephews and your friends, their kids and stuff. Um, and just to see that excitement. My wife's a teacher, and she teaches cooking class for, like, I think preschool to fourth grade or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I know when she gets excited, kind of in the same way, when kids come there and they're going to learn to cook something that day, and the excitement that they have for creating. And I think we all have that need to create. Um,
Yeah.
but you know, sharing that with a younger audience would be really good. I think that's what the comic industry needs more of. Um,
Yeah.
so and I wish I would have went that route starting out, but you know,
Yeah.
just
I mean, I know people say that the young reader books don't sell, but I feel like that almost becomes like a vicious circle, right?
yeah,
Like because they don't sell, they stop publishing them, and then like kids, stop reading comic books, and then it gets to the point where it's like, when you go to these conventions, it's mostly 30 and 40-year olds. You know what I mean? Which I mean, I, I mean, it's great that 30 and 40-year olds are coming to these conventions, but I'd like to see more like 12 and 13-year olds.
but you know what? I think right now that manga has just taken over the younger readers too, because I think what
Yeah.
the 5 graphic novels of 2022, I think 23 of them, the top 25 was all manga. Something,
Yeah.
they're just killing American books right now. So I think we need to, as American comic creators, we need to take a look at what we're not doing that they're doing, you know, um,
Yeah.
and try to find ways to reach out to the younger audience. So yeah, I think something for Free Comic Book Day that's geared towards kids would be really good. Or just other platforms, maybe being a guest at a local school. I saw you posted you have your stuff at the library. I mean, that's great.
Yeah.
That's a place where kids come check out books, and I go there and check out graphic novels all the time, right? So if I saw that display in my library, I'd stop and be like, man, what's this? There's a local,
I,
yeah,
yeah, I'm curious to see what it's going to do. Uh, like as far as people getting a hold of me. I don't know if people are gonna see that and just walk by. I don't know if. I mean, I feel like it's gonna. I mean, it can only help, right?
yeah, I think so. Will they let you do like a drawing art class or anything like that at the library?
So we've done stuff like that in the past, and a lot of and it's funny, I've done drawing seminars in the past, and it's funny, like people will come up to me and be like, hey man, what did like how did you get in on that? How did you get them to let you do that? And I say to people, a lot of times all you have to do is ask. Um, a lot of these libraries are looking. I mean, they have
Sure.
trouble filling their calendar with events.
Yeah.
So if you're going to come in and say, "Hey, I would like to do a drawing seminar," that's less work than they have to do. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
That's one less event. If you can come into a library and say, "Hey, I would love to do a drawing seminar on this date, and I'll make all the plans, I'll get all the material." I mean, you're making their job easier.
Oh yeah.
So why wouldn't they want to do that?
I think they would definitely sign up for it. That might be something. I can look at when I do the superhero book, when I put it out there, try to do a class. I did teach a cartooning class back in '92 uh,
Okay.
for a downtown Dayton, and I don't think you saw it, right by the convention center where the show was last year. There's
Okay.
a really big building for children's arts.
Okay.
It's not tied to any school district or anything. It's its own business. It's called K-12.
Oh, sounds cool.
Yeah, it's really neat. The building's full, big murals all over the building, and they have all kinds of art classes. I taught a cartoon class back in '92 there. The only problem was I never did it before, so I didn't really have my class laid out like I should, and they had all ages. So like the little kids just wanted me to draw Superman or Snoopy,
Yeah,
and
that would be hard.
yeah. So if you do something like that, I'd be like, look, we specify the age group for this class. And you know what? We can do another class for younger creators or something like that, or maybe like a
Right.
workshop. Here's the fundamentals of storytelling. Because I believe strongly, um, if you do mostly pinup art, like there's some artists at the shows, that's what they mostly do. They do pinup arts of DC and Marvel characters,
Yeah.
and they sell their prints. But if you're a sequential artist like we are, then you'll maybe do 4 or 5 classes on sequential storytelling, because you can't do it in one class. There's
Right.
much to take in. So yeah,
So,
that's one of those things I think would help out.
so from listening to you talk, you said that your next comic book is going to be all ages.
It's the all ages superhero book will be out I, by the end of 2023. I was going to put it out there and test the waters with it, but it was going to be almost like I have a lot of artwork done for several stories. So I was gonna do like almost like a Marvel Comics Presents, where
Okay. Cool.
it's gonna be chopped up, almost like an anthology, and because I would have like about 3 issues ready to go. Uh, but no, the next book is actually, it's looking like it's gonna be the Devil's Contract 3, and I can show you some. Let me show you some artwork from the Devil's Contract.
Yeah, that sounds great.
That's the line art from the cover for the second issue,
Yeah,
which
that looks great.
yeah, that campaign went pretty good. It's still a small campaign, um, and hopefully it will continue to pick up. This is a piece of one of the characters from the book. That's Mr. Christmas.
Right. Yeah, you were talking about him. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a short story. I might use this as the cover for the solo book. This is the other character. I just did this piece. This is Saint Pat, based on St. Patrick's Day, of course.
Right. Yeah,
Uh,
you were saying that all the assassins are named after holidays.
yeah. So
I
um,
can't remember if we were talking about that before the show or if we were talking about that during the show. That's part of the problem with talking before the show, right?
yeah, yeah. So the solo books I have, I don't have the artwork started on yet because I'm been busy on issue 3. Um, but I'm just slowly, if I don't feel like working on issue 3 that tonight, then I just, kind of sketch some ideas, what's in my head for the solo stories. I do have the artwork. I have a page on Facebook, Mind Grind Studios.
Okay.
Well, I post a lot of the stuff I'm working on currently. This is the line art for the front cover of issue 3 of the Devil's Contract.
Okay.
So not
Oh,
too,
okay. So there's a little bit of sex appeal on that,
yeah, a little
right?
bit, yeah. Sexy vampire chicks, I guess. Uh, and then because issue 3 is going to be cut up in kind of like 3 stories in a way. Um, the aftermath of issue 1 and 2 is the first 10 pages. And then there's a middle story with the mercenaries. And then the third part of issue 3 is going to be really what they're going after next, which is this coven of vampires. So,
Yeah.
and so really that the Devil's Contract is basically the protagonists are this group of mercenaries that take this job from this guy who used to be a preacher, and
Right.
he hires them to go after some people that was part of his congregation. And you come to find out that this guy was just dirty to begin with, and
Oh, okay.
he has like a resort. He's not a pastor anymore. He has like a compound, kind of like Epstein Island.
Oh, geez.
He also deals with like military weapons and arms deals and stuff. And so uh, as they're he hires these mercenaries to track down these monsters. He plans on using them like weapons, basically, to sell to the military so they can develop this next generation of soldier or whatever they want to do. But
Mhm.
so so really the hired guns, the mercenaries, kind of catch on once they really get to his compound and find out that this dude's involved in like sex trafficking and drug
Right.
arms deals. That he was like the lowest of the low, and so things kind of get out of hand because they're not fully on board with what they're doing, even though they're getting paid. Uh,
Right.
so it kind of weighs on some of their conscience. And
Yeah, sex trafficking is a good line to draw,
yeah,
right?
yeah. So yeah, because there's going to be one part. The character Saint Pat, um, actually, everyone thinks he's crazy because he like talks to an angel, and
Okay.
you come to find out in the second issue that there's some validity to that. That he actually is talk to an angel, and I kind of touch a little bit on that
Oh, okay. That's
because
cool.
angel's kind of like, hey, your time, your Armageddon's coming. You know, to fight for the Lord by taking out you know these devils and stuff like that. And so the idea for the Devil's Contract was basically um, like this former preacher, former pastor who's doing all this dirty stuff, like sold his soul, kind of idea. And
Right.
so once the mercenaries really get to the compound and see all this firsthand, and kind of all hell breaks loose, and I got some monsters thrown in there for kind of like a Mexican standoff. you know,
Yeah.
you got the monsters on one side, you got this crazy pastor who has like his basically a compound full of people and hired guns, and then you got the holiday characters, so who kind of get tied up in all that. So
And
that's
so,
that's pretty much the Devil's Contract in a nutshell. Um, but one of the other books I have coming out this year, which I'll show you. So Mark Fisher from Electromagnetic Press.
yeah, so we saw Mark this weekend at Three Rivers, and he's a
Yeah,
really nice guy too.
very cool guy. I met him in, I want to say 2018, 2019 at Gym City Con. I just happened to go there as as a fan. And I
Right.
saw Mark walking by with a King's X shirt, and King's X was this, alt rock 80s and 90s that I really enjoyed. I'm like,
Yeah,
man,
that's something I noticed about Mark. He has really good taste in music.
yeah, he does. Yeah. And so it
Very eclectic.
that. And then I went over to their table. I saw the work they was putting out. I enjoyed it, and I showed him some of my stuff, and he was just like, "Hey, man, you want to draw some stuff for a story I'm writing for our next anthology?" And that kind of what got me back into doing comic art again. Was that offer right there? And so I have a character. Like I said, I've been published doing stuff for other people and other anthologies. And I had a character. who it's a Cupid character. His name's Mr. Love. Um,
Oh, cool.
yeah, and he's not good at his job really, and it's kind of like Cupids are like a
That's a
business.
great concept.
Yeah. So so I got with him. I said, "Look, I have some stories. I have some artwork that's done already. I mean, do you want to write it for me? You know, what can let's collaborate and do some stuff." So he jumped on board. So we have half the book done, um, and this right here is the cover. It's already the cover's done. This was kind of like I really admire. There's a lot of great comic
There's a
art.
lot of detail in that.
Yeah, that was kind of my homage to Jeff Darrow, even though it's nowhere near as detailed as that guy, because that guy's insane.
You
Uh,
know who it kind of reminds me of? Do you like Don Simpson at all?
yeah, Don Simpson's great too.
Don Simpson was at Three Rivers Con too.
Yeah, he still
Dandy
put.
Don.
Um, so yeah, he jumped on board, and so we're doing a one shot of Mr. Love, and it's actually going to be a story within a story. It's almost like an anthology, and then a
Okay.
story to frame it all in.
Yeah.
Mr.
So you
Love
were telling. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say Mr. Love is kind of like on trial
Okay.
uh, with the higher ups at his job because he's for the last 100 years he's been bad at his job, and
Right.
so it's kind of like a work review.
Right.
We all dread having that annual review of even for some reason, and
This sounds great. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Now this I think we were talking backstage a little bit, like this is a character you came up with and then Mark kind of came on board to help with the writing.
yes, yeah, and then he started throwing some ideas at me, and I was like, yeah, that will work. Yeah, so here's some of the artwork that was done. Like this is one of the pages that it takes place in Rome back in like the late '60s or late '50s, early '60s.
Oh, that looks great.
Thank you. Like he's riding around on a Vespa. Um, so that's like a 13-page short story. Um, I have another story me and Mark did called Record Store Vampire, where it's the urban myth of how vampires hang out late night at record stores. And it takes place in like the punk rock new wave era of the early 80s, like 1980, 81. Uh, so like so in the background I did a bunch of album covers of popular albums back then, and then we're doing another short story that takes place at kind of like a roller disco, kind of like a murder at a roller disco.
Oh, that should be fun. Is this gonna be like a time like a set piece? Like
Yeah, within the Mr. Love book, because the Cupid character is at the roller skating ring at the time that all this is
yeah.
going, and there I did some characters kind of like Scooby Doo, but um, it's called Ruby Roo. Yeah, and it's this little Boston Terrier and her group of friends who are trying to solve this mystery. Meanwhile, Mr. Love is there trying to make a love connection at a roller.
Oh,
So
so that's another comic book that I want to do. So now I'm gonna have to hurry up on with this idea and try to get it finished before you get your idea finished. I want to do a Scooby
right,
Doo. I want to do a Scooby Doo parody too,
yeah,
where it's like it's the Scooby Doo guys, but they're all like trapped in like a slasher movie, and like little by little the gang starts getting picked off by the slasher. But
you're
yeah,
not Scrappy in it, right? Scrappy sucked.
no, Scrappy's not going to be in it. Don't worry. But it's going to be. I mean, I know Scooby Doo has been parodied to death, so
Yeah,
the thing is trying to find like little uh, like the stuff that hasn't been parodied to death. You know what I mean?
put your own spin on it.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, there. So we have those three stories, um, and then, like I said, that's all going to be within his job review story where he's on trial. And there's a cool thing. There's going to be a cool kind of like twist at the end, or a surprise. It kind of leaves it open for future stories if people want it, because it's another there's another great character. I won't give it away, but there's another great character at the end of the book, who's not a Cupid, who's from a different organization, and you're just like, oh wow, okay, um, and you didn't know it was there the whole time. So, well, may I give away too much, but so yeah, the one shot. Mark and I are looking at doing the Kickstarter campaign. Mark, if you're listening, we're still trying to shoot for July, August.
So you're going to have it finished by July and August, or you're going to have it on Kickstarter, or both?
I'll probably, I think by August I can have it done.
Cool.
I just, so, but it all depends. We'll see how our we got a call next week to discuss things. Um, and try to have this thing done. I really want to get it out there. So, I'll do that for issue 3 of The Devil's Contract. I'm just doing the pencils right now. My friend Mike Everett up near Cleveland, Akron area, he is doing the inks. And he's a real good artist. He's actually one
My
of the.
wife paid you a compliment. She
Oh,
likes the Vampire and Record Store idea.
yeah, that one's done. I have the artwork. It's across the room right now. I posted pages. I posted the artwork on my Mindgrind Studios page. I
Okay.
think I might have left a comment on one of them. Um, so if anyone wants to check out the artwork for the Record Store Vampire, just check out Mindgrind Studios on Facebook.
Yeah,
And
I just started following it, and I was even like kind of scrolling through. Um, Let me see. Can I copy and share this? Uh, Sorry, I'm bad at tech.
me too.
Um, well, I mean, if you look up Mind Grind Studios, it is really cool. I think it's the only Mind Grind Studios on Facebook, so you
Yeah,
can't really
I've been
miss it.
toying around with trying to get a website. I kind of
Yeah.
got a free website on Google. But I was looking at Bluehost last week about setting up a really an official website. I just don't know who to go with yet. I don't know if you guys got one set up for.
Yeah, so we used Squarespace, which I really like. I think it's really easy to use. Um, it's not super expensive.
$10 a month.
Yeah, I think about that. I think most of them are about that, right?
And so, do you have like an online store there too that people can just buy books from you? Right.
So we don't have an online store. I don't know if I want to do an online store for individual issues, because that sounds like a lot of work. Like every time somebody wants a
Yeah.
comic book, then I have to keep track of, so if somebody says like I want one comic book, then that's a lot of work to
Yeah.
go to the post office. But I think once I have the trade paperback out, I think that would be really cool. I mean, my comic books are up on Amazon currently. You can get digital copies of them. Have you gone that route yet?
Uh, Put it digitally on Amazon.
Yeah.
Hmm. And do they also sell hard copies or just digital?
So I haven't done the hard copies yet for the same reason. Uh, Again, that just seems like a lot of work. Like, every time somebody orders a comic book, I have to run to the post office. But I would maybe be willing to do that if somebody's willing to shell out like $25 for a trade paperback. That seems a lot more reasonable to me. That's worth
Yeah.
a trip to the post office if that makes sense.
And speaking of your book, I need to get the other issues. Are you coming
Oh,
to?
okay. Um,
I
are
need to
you
buy.
doing are you doing any conventions this summer?
I didn't get set up to be a guest this year at Gym City. I thought about calling them. I was kind of hoping to have more stuff done
Yeah.
because I didn't want to do a table and just have the same book. I got the second issue's out and I have copies for that. Um, so if I went, I'd have two books. I don't know if that really is enough to you know paying. Was it $75 for
Yeah.
table?
Yeah, I don't know if we're gonna do Gem City this year. It was a tad slow last year.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. That Saturday was slow. Sunday picked up a little bit more for me. I don't know how it was for you guys, but I mean we sat next to each other, so.
yeah.
But okay, if not, then I guess I need to go online and I need to get some hard copies of Beowulf because that was and not blow smoke. That was my favorite book I picked up last year at Gym City as far as favorite read because I picked up I think like six different books. Um, some of them I bought just they look like they wasn't moving any product and I grabbed a couple books like
I do that too sometimes.
yeah. And then one guy he had a pretty good spiel talking about it. So I was like, sure, I'll buy the first couple issues. And I read it and I was just like, it maybe I'm not the right audience for that book. I probably won't be buying any more copies or future issues from of that series. But yeah, uh, Beowulf was my favorite read of that, and I regret not buying the other issues when you had them that day.
Well,
So
thanks, Dan. I appreciate that. If you wanna DM me on Facebook, or I guess I could DM you too.
yeah,
Um, we'll set up something like you can maybe PayPal me some money, and I'll send you.
okay, yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I gotta see. So you're almost done, right?
I'm
Oh,
working on issue 6 right now. So, the next thing that's coming up for me, and I guess maybe we should like I try to keep these under an hour. So,
oh, I'm
it's
sorry.
probably no, no, no. It's not your fault. Like I was enjoying talking to you. So when it, when these shows run late, that's a good sign because that means I'm enjoying talking to you. But uh, yeah. So the next thing that's coming up for me is Memoirs of the Morbid. We put out the first volume about a year ago. For those of you who don't know what it is, it's a horror anthology. It's 5 independent stories. You don't have to worry about anything being to be continued or anything like that. It's more Twilight Zoney style horror than like blood and guts style horror.
More
This
so.
time we did have one story that was a little bit bloodier, but overall I think it's more, you know what I mean by like Twilight Zoney horror, where it's like, you can tell something is wrong with the situation, but you're not quite sure what it is,
Yeah.
and it slowly reveals the mystery as the story goes along. Um, but yeah, and that's gonna be fun. I'll put that in the chat. That's gonna be up on Kickstarter in late June. Did you have anything you wanted me to put up? Do you have like any of the Kickstarter pages up yet that you?
Uh,
Uh,
no, not yet. Um, I should have two more Kickstarters for issue 3 of Devil's Contract and Mr. Love one shot. Mr. Love should be, I'm thinking August, and Devil's Contract issue 3 should be in September. So,
yeah, so definitely go on Facebook and look up Mind Grind Studios. I just started following that. I've been friends with you on Facebook for a while, but I don't know how I never started following that. But yeah, I'm following that, and you put a lot of your own art up on there, which is really cool. Um, I might, but we can talk about this like through DM sometime. I might commission maybe like a pinup or something for the back of Beowulf at some point
Oh yeah,
from you. But like I said, we can talk about that
yeah.
some other time as well.
I'd be more than happy to do something.
So do you want to? Oh, I guess I should. So I haven't been showing this, but this is the work that I've been doing. I'm just drawing like the stone. I didn't get a lot of work. Like I said, I'm usually busier talking than I am drawing. So I'm getting the stone wall. I did, yeah. So I can't decide if I like it better like that or like with the holes filled in a little bit, or I don't know. I'll decide before I get it printed. But this was my original version, and I think this was just a little bit too sketchy. Like you can't even really tell that that's supposed to be stone. So I redid it. I think I like this a little bit better, but I don't know. I might do a third version too. Carl saying good conversation. Did you want to throw out your social media at all? Like where people can find you?
Yeah,
We mentioned Mind Grind Studios. Do you have an Instagram?
yeah. Should be. Oh God, what is my Instagram? I think it's Dan Barlow 1971.
Dan Barlow, 1971. Okay. And
And
do you mess with Twitter?
yeah, even though it's a cesspool of crazy stuff.
Twitter's my least favorite one too.
Yeah, it's just gotten so depressing. Every time I get on there, I get bombarded of how terrible
Yeah.
the world. So, uh, oh man, I should know what it. See, I don't post really anything on Twitter. Um, so I'm on
I,
there. Gonna
yeah,
check.
I very like I just post information. I never post anything like really fun on Twitter.
Yeah, so uh, mainly right now it's just been Mind Grind Studios because I don't take much time out to post anything anymore unless it's uh, on my Facebook page on Mind Grind.
You're a busy guy.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can. I mean, it seemed like you know, it seems like you've got so much stuff coming out down the next few months, right?
yeah. This it's gonna be a good year. One of the things I did do, I don't know, did I send you a copy of this? This was the Art of Mind Grind. Uh,
Uh-uh.
I had a bunch of artwork. It's kind of like a previews book, and then also some lost art that I've done over the years. Uh, I think I printed up like 50 copies. I made that part of my campaign for issue two. Um, just one of the things I want to touch on real quick is for the second campaign, I wanted to add more value
Okay.
to my project, so I made the book 48 pages, and I think the tier for that was like you could get the preview book, the 48-page issue two. I did a metal bookmark, a sticker, a vinyl sticker, and I gave away a piece of original artwork, like a panel. I cut up some pages and threw some panel art in there uh,
Right.
for like $20. That was the tier. That was the top tier for it. My second Kickstarter campaign
Yeah,
because I was
people
trying.
love that behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, I just figured it's kind of neat that people could actually have a piece of the artwork because a lot of times some of those pages normally they're just going to sit and collect dust. And I was like,
Right.
somebody likes my book enough to want to read it, then they deserve to have something they can call their own and some original artwork to go with it. Just my way of saying thanks. So that's one of the ways I was looking at the campaign. I'll probably continue to do that practice. So just to try to keep people wanting to come back for the next issue. So, but yeah, where was I? Sorry, I start ADD kicks in and I start rambling.
No
Um,
problem.
so yeah, the third issue is I'm looking at September. Mr. Love is August. You can find a lot of artwork of mine on Mindgrind Studios. A lot of stuff that's coming out, including the front covers to those two issues
Okay.
are color and done. I work for colors named Dan Olvera out of Mexico. He's been doing the color work for me because I didn't know what way to turn when I first started doing this. And then the lettering is done by Sarah Oconte.
Okay.
Oconte. I apologize, Sarah. She's in Venezuela right now. Real good lettering. And lettering is like one of those things that gets taken for granted. You'll notice bad lettering, but if lettering's good, a lot of times people don't pick up on it. If the
Right.
thing story and everything else is good. Uh, but man, a good letterer goes a long way. And that was like one of those things I don't know how to do. I'm dumb with tech and computer stuff. So I was just like, I'd rather focus on uh, penciling and inking and I'd pay somebody to do lettering for me. So they've both been really good to work with. But
Yeah, I keep thinking about hiring a letterer or hiring a colorist. Not so much because I don't enjoy doing it, but just because it's so time consuming.
yeah, I
But
tell you what,
I don't know.
she has a great page rate. I can send you her contact info
Sure.
and reach out to her, man. And she's quick. I mean, and she's been really nothing but nice and professional this whole time, which means a lot. Um, and like I said, page wise, I think her prices are really good. And from what I've seen from other people's lettering, um, is this isn't one of those get what you pay for. She does quality work and it's a reasonable price. So
Well, okay, I'll put it this way. In the first issue, you said you only notice lettering if it's bad, and I didn't notice the lettering in issue 1 of the Devil's Contract, so it must be good, right?
yeah, I was happy with it. I really think a lot of times uh, I felt like I needed to catch up professionally because my letterer was on a different level and I'm down here. And I was like, and the first issue, my inking was done with mostly like repeatographs or just mechanical, micron pens. And then
Right.
the second issue, I went back to doing uh, inks with crow quill nibs, some nice black ink, and I started using more brushes. And then the third issue, um, I'm using well for what I am inking. My buddy's doing most of the inking, but I started using some other tools and just trying to keep evolving. For the fourth issue, I already talked to him. We're talking about doing Zipatone, so we'll see.
Oh.
Just trying to maybe not everywhere, but trying to get a little bit more incorporated. My goal is to have a manga style gray tones and zipatone effects, but with Americanized comic style. You know what I'm saying?
Now, are you planning on actually like cutting up like the actual Zipatone sheets
Uh,
or
yeah, I'm going to do that for the fourth issue front cover. Um, I and I'll see how that works out, how much time it takes. Because the fourth issue is going to be a banger. It's going to be at least 40 pages, and it's nothing but straight action from first page to last page. It's called the Vampire War, and
right?
it's going to be. I'm going to try to go nuts on it. So um, I I'll see if Zipatone is going to be feasible. Because like I said, I'm looking at like at least 40 pages for the fourth issue. So that I might not be able to do Zipatone, but if I can get Zipatone on the front cover, We'll see, because I want the front cover for issue 4 is planned to be a double page cover. So we'll see. I'll let you know how that works out.
All right. Well, thank you so much
Yeah.
for showing up, Dan. That all sounds great. I'm looking forward to that stuff. And I don't know. I'll send you uh, a list of what conventions I'm doing in Ohio
Okay. Yeah. Definitely.
this summer. So maybe we can like meet up at some point.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Um,
Stuff. I'll send you some links, like the letter, contact info, and like I said, if you want me to do some art for some of your projects, just say the word, man. I'll knock some stuff out for you. That'd be great.
that sounds awesome. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And tell Angie, she keeps on writing some more comic stuff that I might need a writer to help me out with some Devil's Contract work too. So
Yeah, I'm looking forward to reading that as well.
yeah, you get a chance to read the second issue, and I will let you know as soon as the Kickstarter campaigns hit.
All right, good talking to you, Dan. Have a great night.
You too, man. Keep on trucking. Keep on producing, making comics.
You too. All right, thanks everybody for watching. Have a great night, and I will see you next week. Bye.